We had simple tech issues, you know, whatever. Hold on, let's make sure that good. We good? Okay, no, we good.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the flow. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And we are live, day 2 of the podcast movement. You see, I got my hoodie. It's a little bit chilly here.
It is a little chilly.
I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit chilly. But did you just do a shiver?
Little shimmy shake.
Okay, all right.
Shake it up in the morning.
So we had a whole day.
Yeah.
We went through some things, saw some sessions. Like, give me your take on it so far.
Yeah, really cool, man. I think one of the things that stood out from the session this morning, at least when I was tuned in, they were saying that over 40% of people cut the wire last year, which meant that they cut off their cable to go to what would be considered more modern ways of consuming content.
Yep.
So it just kind of brought up to my mind that what we're doing here is not just podcasting, it's actually media and entertainment.
Yep.
So just the thought of it's not just what you see in front of you, there's a whole world, again, that we can all grow and expand into. I think that's a phenomenal opportunity that I'm just walking away with. And I think a lot of the people who are tuned into this should definitely be thinking about, too, that this is not just a little rinky-dinky little podcast. This is media and entertainment as we now know it today.
So y'all know, in the chat, in the comments, however you're watching this, let us know if you have cable. Do you have cable? Because I don't. I haven't had cable in years.
Me neither.
Yeah. No. I haven't had cable in years. I'm Gucci with Netflix. I'm Gucci with YouTube and my little coursework. But I'm focused. Not saying you're not, but I'm focused. So I don't necessarily. I have an addictive mindset. I'll do that. But one of the things. So Mark Cuban had his chat today for Fireside, right? For those people who don't know, it's like Clubhouse. Fireside is just another audio app, just like Clubhouse, right? And you mentioned it because you were like, what's the word they said?
Participatory content.
Yes. I can't say that.
What is that?
I can't say that. So I'm going to define it, but I can't say that. So pretty much content that your audience can pretty much be participating in, literally, whether it's reactions, whether it's coming up to stage and talking to you, whether it is asking questions down below, pretty much having people truly engage and immerse in your particular content, because the more they feel that they are a part of you, right, the more they probably stay locked in. It's not necessarily just a one-way conversation. So one of the things that I got out of that was like, how do we make some of the content that we create right now, whether it is the podcast, whether it's anything else, how do we make that more where they feel that they are part of it than just listening, right? So that's why I'm asking you, who has cable? I haven't had cable in 15 years. That's what I'm talking about. Everything I use is UK, is streamed, right? And you see, Paul, don't forget to hit that like button. Shut up, Paul. But, I say all that because why do you think it is important for people to be involved? And for me, I think it's because we are so used to before the TV.
Yeah. Well,
where we're screaming at it. Remember how yo, come stop! On! Don't do that! No, come on! And it's like, no, we know you're not gonna hear me, but I look crazy. But why do you think?
Yeah, I think more than ever now, everyone really feels that they too have a voice, that they too are qualified to speak on something, and so not everyone just wants to sit there and listen and be the student. Some people really actually want to be involved in the conversation. They want to contribute to the dialogue. They want to add value to it. They want to offer a different level of perspective and make sure that their voice is being heard. So I think more than ever, to your point about why it's important, I know for me, there's only so much listening that I can do before I have something to say or have a different spin to add to it and say, well, hold on, I know you said this, but have you considered this?
Yeah.
So I think for sure, especially as more of us are finding our voice and wanting to share, it's important to give that option so that more people can feel engaged. And one of the things that they said is that people will actually consume the content more, not because they want to hear what you have to say, but they want to hear back what they said. It's like this selfishness in human beings to be like, oh, okay, wait, let me hear back what I said. I want to hear how deep that was.
No, you know what just came in my mind that would be really dope? So if they had a like a scary movie or like a drama type audio experience that we could participate in and be like, he's about to hit the door. No, don't go through the door. Right? And it changes the whole story. Yeah. I think that would be so fire. It's like, no, don't go through it.
Okay.
And it pauses like, so you're saying go left? Yeah. Go left. It goes left and it changes the. I think that would.
That was actually pretty dope. I like that. That was good.
Somebody make that happen. I'm not going to do it. So you can have that idea. But I think that, like, and being here shows kind of still the importance of audio, right? Though we live in a video world and we're on Ecamm Live and it's super video-ish, right? It still thinking about different experiences that we can bring people in. And, like, not just through audio, but through visuals, through, sound effects, everything. And how are we making our content, how are we making our experiences something that people remember? Yeah. Right? One of the sessions that I went into was more of like people bringing in sound engineers, bringing in producers, everything for writers. Like, okay, I'm writing it. You come in with the sound engineer because I needed to have a certain kind of level, certain kind of highs, lows, whatever. The producer knows when it dips in and out, and I'm like, yo, what I think of podcasting is just a conversation. What I've realized doing some of the research is there is so much more to it because there are series of like mini movies. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is, and you're right. When you think of it from the lens of a movie, and how can I mirror that experience so that the listener is engaged? And I think of it even just as a communicator. Yeah. Every communicator knows that if you're talking like this for an entire hour, eventually people are going to stop listening to you. So just having those influxes in your voice and showing different emotions and speeding up and then slowing down, but it does engage the listener a little bit to say, okay, wait, even if my mind dozes off because I saw something or something happened or you actually said something that made me think about it, with every effect, it does bring us back. It kind of reminds me of our air horns. It's funny, I walked across, we have iHeart, the booth, they have a coffee station right across. Right. So I walked over and they were having conversation. They were like, oh, you're the ones from the air horns from yesterday. And they were like, what's the resemblance of it? Exactly that. It was like, when is it? Is it when someone says something or when someone does something? I said, no, it's just whenever there's a air horn appropriate moment. You just gotta, boom, hit them with it. But that's ultimately what that does for us, I believe, too, right? When you hear the air horns, you know that something important was said. You might have been dozed off, and you hear the air horns, you say, oh, hold up, let me go back maybe 30 seconds, a minute to hear it. So to your point, I think really elevating the experience of audio so that people can be more involved into what is being shared, that's a really cool way to look at it. And it brought an idea for me. Okay, maybe y'all can't steal this idea, but it's okay, it's cool, right? But it made this idea for me to where some of the things that we go over in our podcast, right? When we break down some of the influencers and celebrities, slight plug, Nicky and Moose podcast. You go on YouTube at youtube.com/Nicky and Moose. But taking some of those stories, finding a beat that's appropriate, and coming up with a storyline on the beat. Wow. Making it, because our podcast is about an hour, sometimes a little bit over, 100 episodes, not so much, but, either or. But how are we creating something, they said something so important, like there are different experiences when you ride in the car going to work. You're listening to something different there than when you're listening to something when cleaning the house, when you're working out, when you're just kind of want to decompress and things like that. So we're creating one type of content, audio content for people, and we're making them listen to only that. Can we create something for other experiences.
Yeah.
That's what got my mind really going crazy, because even on that, it would explain from a video standpoint as I flip it, right? What are we listening? What are we watching when we are just chilling? What are we watching when we want to like just decompress? What are we watching when we're kind of like on a break? What are we watching when we want to learn something? There's different things that we're watching in different scenarios. If I'm upstairs on my desk, I'm watching something different than when I'm downstairs, right? Chilling on like on the couch, right? Everything has a different experiences, and for our audience, are we creating those different experiences and meeting them where they are?
No, for sure. I think it adds a very unique spin to it. I think of some apps like Calm, meditation apps, and when you think about the sounds that they bring into, I don't know if they use I'm sure they're using different types of mics, but even if you're using not the greatest headphones, you get a much higher experience than what you're expecting because of the different sounds and the way they produce the show. So I think that's pretty cool. I saw a question in the chat here really quick. I just want to speak to that about cable.
Eliseo, I see you, Eliseo. My bad.
No, oh good. They're talking about physical cable. Yeah, they're talking about physical cable. So things like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime Video, and all of these different things, they're considered streaming platforms.
Yeah.
But they were talking about actual physical cable. Yeah, right there. When you say cable, at first I was thinking physical cable, when in reality, my TV, Netflix is accessed over the internet network today, looking for clarity. So yeah, it's they were talking about physical cable, how many people are now starting to cut the cord, as they called it, to go to those streaming sites where they're using the internet to get access to things like Netflix, Hulu, and some of these different streaming platforms. So yeah.
So does this event give you a different perspective or a different look at audio?
Yeah, absolutely. That it's beyond the conversation of just you and I, that there are audiences who, and now it makes sense, right? Because we always joke about how are we trending in Finland? How are we trending in some of these countries that we have no idea whether or not they even speak English? And then Abby brought up a phenomenal point. She said people actually use podcasts to learn English, so that's one of it, right? So when you really start to expand your mind and think more about the consumer and why people are going to podcasts, you start to think differently than, oh, it's about me or it's my podcast. It's not your podcast anymore the minute you just press or upload, right? It's no longer yours. So it definitely does offer some new perspective for me as to what does audio mean, what does podcast mean, and how I can really make sense of all of this to create a better experience essentially for the end user.
This is a fact. Jonathan, come here. I'm gonna bring Jonathan on real quick. I got some questions. Go over here, right here. Just picking up random people off the street. You know what I mean? Picking up random people off the street. First off, Jonathan, how are you?
I'm doing well.
He's really tall, people, as you can see. He's one of my favorite people when it comes to talking about podcasting. He is one of those consistent people that will teach you about it, give you all kind of different updates about it, all that great stuff. Jonathan, introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm your podcast mentor, and I'm a major fan of the Nicky and Moose show. I tap in. I love the way y'all break down brands and everything like that. But you know, I've learned a lot from y'all. I've told you that, Nicky, but Moose, I never told you. You know, the way y'all be breaking down personalities, in addition to the brands, everything like that. But yes, I'm just glad to be here with you.
So, okay, what's the biggest takeaway that you've gotten from podcast movement so far? I mean, I know you're working. But I know you're still listening.
Yeah. So, collective agency. I just heard it in the Lipson panel that was moderated by LC Escobar, and just talking about how we need to come together, creating that community, but then taking it the next step further. Like if I have something that can help you, or I know somebody who you should be connected to, then making that and facilitating that connection. You know, making sure and facilitating those connections so that we can continue to build and we'll be stronger together.
Tell me if that volume's better, people. Tell me if that volume's better. Okay, so what is there a session that you're still looking forward to, or are you just happy that you're just around here? What's the vibe you got?
Yeah, actually yesterday, just learning about audio storytelling. Like, and it was, I think the term was binaural. Exactly. I was like, what? Because they started talking about the Wolverine podcast, and like with the Wolverine. We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, they're talking about the Wolverine podcast and how when you listen with these certain headphones, you know how you don't have to be as descriptive talking about like there's a tiger walking in front of you or something's dropping behind you because you hear it. And I'm like, what in the world? But this is a session I never would have attended. I wouldn't have looked it up, but just because I was working the room helping in the techno track, I was like, okay, y'all talking good. Y'all talking real good in here.
Okay, so let's talk about volunteering real quick, because some people don't know that's like the hack. If you want to go somewhere, you should volunteer. You get in pretty much for free, and you get the information. You got to work a little bit, like a lot of bit, but still, you get a lot of information. Talk about like the benefits of volunteering and kind of getting in those rooms. Have you met somebody that you were like, hold, and this is just any event. Doesn't necessarily have to be this event.
For sure.
But like you met somebody, you're like, oh snap, I didn't expect this, and I'm so happy.
Yeah. So in terms of volunteering, it's one of those things that it's service, right? And it's not always the sexiest, but I've got the opportunity to meet people who are on stages like Dave Jackson, Podcaster Hall of Fame, and I got to meet him by volunteering. But even in addition to that, you get the opportunity to showcase and spotlight other individuals. But then also, I was talking with one of the gentlemen, he's head product manager. He was like, yeah, man, send me an email. I'll shoot you a free unit. And I was like, wait, what? He was like, yeah, let me know what you think about it. Senior marketing director.
Wow.
So yeah, when I was like, whoa, that's day one. That's how we kicking it off.
Right. I get free stuff in day one.
Off the bat.
Yeah. So one, you get the opportunity to, you could come away with something free, maybe not, but really understanding that when you begin to develop authentic relationships with people, keep the conversation going. You can even see opportunities of where, okay, there might be a gap here, might be a gap there. I can help here, I can help there, and then that's how you create relationships. That's how you create further opportunity. But really, it's positioning yourself by, I don't want to say by lessening your position, but positioning yourself by serving other people.
That's pretty cool. What about podcasting do you like? Like, what part of podcasting to you? You said a podcast mentor. That means like, hey, I've made a commitment to this industry. What about it? Do you find interesting, or what gravitates you toward it? Why should people who don't have a podcast today consider saying, maybe I need to start hitting record and get going out there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, one, money is always one thing that will move people, right? So understanding that it's projected the podcast industry is a $100 billion industry by 2028.
Whoa. 100 billion?
Hey,
why I keep saying we need to continue to be podcasters? You out here.
By compound annual growth rate. It was the stat was produced by Grand Valley View Research. I can send y'all the link. But 94.88. Okay.
That's
but
fair.
that's 100 billion. We closer to 100 than one. You know what I'm saying? So that's one part for the people who with the numbers. But also you can literally build your authority from nothing. And for instance, we'll take you two as an example. You all didn't build your authority from nothing, but you all had areas of interest and areas to where you all have spent time. And then now with you all doing a podcast, y'all began to show people, look, check out these brands. These are things that we've taken away. And people are tapping in. I see the YouTube. Y'all what, 11K?
11.2. Yeah, man.
So it's the opportunity to create the authority, to create the lane, the thing to where you're calling out your tribe. You're calling them out by name. You're like, hey, this is what you're interested in. We're going to do this. When y'all talked about the pivot clips, yes. I heard Nicky say, hey, y'all love when we do the pivot clips. So, hey, we're going to break down the pivot a little bit more.
Shout out to the pivot, because the pivot's here too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
the executive producer, and I think another person, not them, but the producers of here. Yeah, they're here.
Yeah. That's fair, as they should be.
Right.
So, and then the other part, connecting with other people, connecting with people who you look up to, connecting with people that you might want to be where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasting is the best way to get that coaching, get that connection, and even get them on the show. Yeah. So like doing and putting all those things together, it's a recipe for any industry. We talk about corporate, we talk about personal brands, whatever. McDonald's had a podcast.
Yep.
Wow.
And McDonald's had a podcast about the Szechuan sauce, I believe it was. They had like a 6-episode series, and they were talking about the sauce because the sauce was getting ready to come back. So they were doing a product launch.
Yo, you know what's crazy, and I'm glad you mentioned this because I heard it in the room yesterday, that we think podcasts have to be a gazillion episodes.
Oh, man.
Bro, there are some podcasts that are 6 episodes.
8 episodes. Yep.
Now, I'm not sure what they do after that. I don't know if they bring it back or they do another season to it. But just the thought around there are no rules. And I don't know why in our minds we create these rules and boundaries as to why we can't engage or why we can't enter, when in reality, you can do whatever you want, really.
Say, I'm about to blow your mind, Moose. I was looking at a guy named Frank Kern. You all might have heard of me, connected with like Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
If you look, he got 1-minute episodes, 2-minute episode, taking little clips that he's done from a call, from wherever he might have been. But, bro, people are getting real creative. And then Shan's is doing like the 5-minute Fridays.
Yep.
Yeah.
To where he's doing different type of content. So it's, man, a lot of people get boxed in, especially people who might be outside, who either aren't in this space or they're thinking about getting in this space. There's a lot of barriers there, but people who are in the space, we have to really take time and get creative about how do we want to leverage our podcast, what do we want it to do, and then we need to start doing the type of content that's going to produce those results.
Wow.
Okay, so what's your take? YouTube. Did their little podcast platform, not calling it little, all right? Yeah. But they have a whole section, youtube.com/podcast, where now they're curating more and more of the podcast clips, the episodes, the playlists, things like that. What is your thoughts about that from a video standpoint when it comes to podcasting?
Well, I mean, y'all talked about it. You got you got to do video.
Talk about it.
You got to do video. Period. You got to do video, but 2, YouTube. If we see YouTube doing something, they're telling us we should be.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We need to be in that YouTube bag, right? So, if you haven't been doing video, start like today, start right now. Just take a look, take the phone, do whatever you got to do, and just start documenting something. Because if you're not doing videos, and that means you're not doing shorts. If you're not doing shorts, then you're not trying to get discovered.
Wow.
They're saying share your podcast name again. Share your podcast name again.
Yeah, so the name of my podcast is Your Podcast Mentor Show. You can type in Your Podcast Mentor on YouTube and I'll pull up. Yeah.
Okay, let's start about maybe some beginning stuff. Like, what do people need, right, when starting a podcast? Hey, hold on, we got Super Chat. Shout out to Chris, shout out to Nick. I saw you in the Super Chat before. So, but yeah, what do people need to start a podcast? Because how we started, we got expensive mics. I don't think we're the greatest. I don't think we're the greatest. We went all in. That we are extremists. Well, I'm an extremist, and I kind of influenced him to be one. So what would you say if, hey, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. I know I need to get equipment. I'm not sure what. And the budget type wise, Nicky and Moose got $400, $500 mics. Do I need to get that? Then I heard I got to get a roadcast. Talk to people. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So I'll give two examples. One, you can go to Earn Your Leisure route, how they started out. The iPhone with the earphones with the mic jack, right? Because we all, more likely, we all have a cell phone. Not we all. If we're from a place of, cell phone.
Majority of us.
Thank you, Nicky.
Well
so, cell phone with the earphones with the mic jack, right? That right there, you can get video, and then you can extract the audio from there. Or if we're like, okay, John, I'm a little bit more serious, you can get the Samsung 9, the Samsung I get it
Come on.
confused because I got the Q2 Samsung. So it's the Samsung phone. It's the Samsung mic, and it's like it was 59, but I think they raised it like to 79. You can get that and get started. It's a USB mic, so you can plug it right into your laptop, and then just rock. Like right there, get started, and then you can host on Anchor. I don't recommend Anchor per se.
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because I say the same thing, but you're the podcast mentor, so
okay.
Why you say that?
So I don't recommend Anchor just because of the fact that you have to go through loops and bounds to be able to access like the analytics, and then they take the people who sign up, they put all their stuff together so that they can go get the sponsorships and they can go get and control how much you're gonna get. So
AKA not really ownership.
Yeah, it's definitely not ownership because they set up a third party situation, which
It's good information right here. Yesterday we talked about mistakes, man. 100 episodes in, we've had our fair share. Just from your journey, what are some mistakes that you can look back on and say, well, yeah, essentially it was a lesson, but shoot, if I go back, I might want to do this a little bit differently.
Not getting clear on what I wanted my podcast to do for me. My first podcast was called the Jonathan Jones Speaks podcast, which wasn't necessarily bad, but it was geared towards millennials. But I was trying to speak at colleges more. Therefore, one thing I tell my clients all the time, I say, you got to look at who's your target audience of one, right? Focus on that one person you're talking to. But then on the other side, who's your target client? Because if we're catering to a target audience, this is people who's listening, who's rocking. But then if we have a target client, this is somebody who could be a potential sponsor, right? Somebody who could be a listener as well as they could do business with you. But if we don't get clear on those two aspects, and ultimately it falls on the umbrella of what's the purpose of your podcast? You want it to help you establish authority? You want it to help you generate leads? You want it to help you make some money? Yeah. You want to do it for fun? You can do it for fun. The Pivot. They doing it for fun. They rocking, but they making bread though.
Nah, but they're taking it a lot serious now because I think it went from fun to understanding the impact, and that's the great part about podcasting is like you really don't know your true impact.
True.
Like we were talking just a little earlier, like looking at the charts, seeing that we're in like Dominican Republic, we're in Finland, we're in like Trinidad and Tobago. Like, wait, what? You look at your analytics on YouTube and you're seeing how global you are. And this is all from a podcast that you have now entered the world of being a global brand. Like, talk about how simple that is, but where people start overthinking it. Like, you have a podcast, you are almost a step away from being a global brand.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, because it's now to where you put out the thoughts and conversations that you're having with your friends, but except now you're sharing those thoughts just out there into the podcast sphere, and people have the ability to tap in, especially when we talk about SEO and how we title episodes, because if somebody's struggling with how to get over FOMO, and they just search how to get over FOMO, then they type into the podcast search, they're going to get episodes. And they type it on YouTube, they're going to get some other stuff.
Yep.
So it's just understanding that the thoughts that you had before, and you might put those into a vacuum by being at the crib just talking, now you're going out there. So don't devalue what you have to offer the world, and how your thought, how your perspective, how you're feeling can really change somebody's situation based on the experience that you shared.
Wow. Good. I'm just listening like, yo, that's deep.
You want me to keep asking?
Yeah, please do. I got caught off guard. I was like, yo, that's real.
Okay, so let's talk about money.
Okay.
Right? We got to talk about money.
Yeah.
There are different ways you can make money from podcasting. So kind of break that down for the people. Like for us, we're getting into community. We got sponsorships. We do affiliates, but kind of break that down from your lens of how to make money from podcasting, because though it shouldn't be the main motive, it is a factor.
Yeah. It is a factor because, so I'm going to say this first part, and I'm going to get into that. It's the main factor because a lot of people might do podcasting for the love starting out, right?
Yeah.
But then when they get to like 2 years, it's like, okay, I need to make some money so I can pay for this hosting, if anything, right? If anything. But when we start talking about money from my lens, and one of my clients is actually here. Well, my community is here. My Get Paid with Podcasting community. But I was talking with, his name's RJ Zimmerman. Shout out to RJ, the host of the Untapped Keg podcast.
Okay.
Where he talked about sobriety and mental health. And he said, when I heard your podcast, and then he hopped on the webinar, then he signed up for my program.
Yep.
Right? So as you're establishing your authority in your niche for your industry, you can have 10 people that hear the episode, and you got 2-3 people that make the decision that I want to learn more. I want to invest. So, you can have a program built on the back of that. In addition to that, then I also have partnered with Castos. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with Castos, but they do the private podcast. Like that's their their calling card.
Okay.
I've created an audio book to my podcasting book that I put out through Castos. It's an audio book, but if we frame it in terms of podcasting, it's a private podcast. So, you can set up a subscription for it, or it can be a one-time pay, and they pay and they get access to it. But then, in addition to that, so we got, you can create a book. Create a book. Go on Canva. Take 7 questions that people have always asked you. You can either type up what the responses are, or you can transcribe it, pop that in Canva, save it as a PDF. You print out a ebook for free $99.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, I see a question in the chat there. It says you don't suggest Anchor. So which podcasting platform do you recommend podcasters use?
It depends on what you want out of a platform. Because I have about 4 that I like. So my podcast now is hosted on PodPal, and I partnered with them because I met them a couple years ago. But I like their platform for starting out newbie podcasters, because if you look on the backside, they walk you through each step, and they have a percentage bar that loads. So on the backside, it's showing you, in terms of organizational and structure for those type people, it lays that out. It's like, okay, 50%, 100%, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I host with PodPal, and I recommend them for starting out podcasters. But if you're somebody who's like, I'm really gearing my podcast towards monetization, then I would say check out Captivate. Because Captivate, that you can print out like a sponsorship type kit deal based on your analytics and stuff, all in their platform. So
really?
So it depends on what you want. Like, it really depends on what you want. And then there's Sounder. And then Sounder, they do the transcription for SEO. And then, like I said, Castos. I love Castos because I'm doing did the audio book with them, and the private podcast piece is a whole different beast, because you pay for the hosting, but they're not taking a percentage like the Apple when you do your private podcast with them, or the subscription with them.
Hey, I'm reading that comment right there. That's sorry.
Shout out to the after show, but we're about to make some changes because of that right there.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I love that, though. It says, sorry, why is this guy a volunteer and not a speaker?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. This man need to be on stage here whenever this happens again.
I got to burn out here in a second. I got to burn out here in a second.
Yeah, he's volunteering, so we got to go.
I got to burn out.
But the thing is that and we mentioned, I don't know if I said it on my live or we said it here, right? What's wrong? I was like, what's wrong? The thing is that the experts, the people you really need to talk to, are actually not on stage, right?
Ooh, that's a bar.
That what we listen, and I was really honest about it. I was like, I'm not learning as much from the stage than what I'm learning when I have conversations out here.
True.
Right? Because the real people who are doing the work, not saying they're not, but the real people who are like super research, everything like that in the trenches, you learn more from them than necessarily some of the experts there, because they're only going to give you so much. Where if I had a conversation with you, like just in this live, right, you're willing to give out more and more information. They're allotted a certain amount of time, they're asked certain questions, and that's it. That's not anything close to near what we need. So that's why it's important to come to some of these events, because you learn more from the networking, you learn more from talking to other people outside than necessarily even the speakers that you get from inside.
True story, and it's because, and it's also, and you talked about this on the episode, I believe, with Shan's, because it's to the point to where the people who are actually in the trenches, they're more connected with what the need is versus somebody who is, you know, the head of X podcast company, because their focus is, okay, bottom line, bringing in talent, all this other stuff. And our focus is making sure that we get stuff that works right now. Right. Tried and true for an audience of 5 people, 10 people, 30 people. They looking at 3,000, 300,000, 3 million, right? So it's just one of those things, also looking from the lens and also just the perspective of the individual giving the information.
I like it. I know you gotta go.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you so much.
Indeed.
We still gotta kick it though.
I appreciate y'all. I got you. I got my camera and stuff. Hey, we can, after the day, we can sit down and do the interview. I got my camera, I got my mics. It's in my backpack right now.
Wow.
That's fine. We'll do it.
That sounds like
I'm
a
gonna
plan.
hit you. Okay.
Let's do
it. I'm out. I appreciate y'all.
Indeed,
Appreciate
bro.
it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So that was Jonathan. That's one of my guys, right? Which one? There we go. Hey.
I'm back on blue.
Oh, okay. All right.
Back on blue.
Listen. You like, I get distracted when you cover the whole camera. I got that. And that's and that's Doc for you people. Biggest takeaway?
Man, I mean, I just love how humble he was and dedicated to serving an audience, he said, as little as 3 people. I mean, if that doesn't say something to just the mentality of some people when it comes to this industry, that's gotta shake your tail feather a little bit. It's just like, wait a second, you said 3? You said 5, 10 people? I mean, honestly, that's just new perspective for me. You know, like, there are some people who understand, at the end of the day, I'd rather put out a podcast that serves 10 people than have to have the same conversation 10 different times. That's good perspective right there. You know, when you're really as a business owner or someone trying to build your brand and you're trying to be strategic with how you're doing it, that's a phenomenal way to say, well, how can I be more effective? How can I be more efficient so that I'm not having to repeat the same information over and over again? So I like that perspective of saying, hey, you can start being not just niched, but micro-niched into something as small as an audience of 10 people, but that can help accelerate your business. Because to your point, at the end of the day, if you convert 3 out of the 10, that could be all you need for the week, for the month, depending on what type of, price point that you're at, to really grow and expand your business and keep the lights on. So I really liked his appreciation and his dedication for this industry in saying that I'm willing to serve as little as 3 people. I don't know if he said that word for word, but that's how I took it. That's how I understood it.
I mean, but we have that, and we've spoken about it. We have this expectation that when we put out something, when we put out a podcast, we're expecting hundreds of people to listen to it, hundreds of people to be like enwrapped in it and things like that. And it's like, yo, we're not that deep yet.
Yeah, it don't need to be that.
We're not that deep yet. And then also, those 2-3 people that are listening to it, if you have an hour podcast, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. Do you know they're core people now? Like, have you served those core people? Have you given them all the information that they kind of need? And I'm super big on that because we devalue the small numbers.
Yeah.
We devalue the three people. When the 3 people could pay for lunch, dinner,
take care of the hosting fees.
Right, the hosting fee. I may be able to get some new sneakers or something. They know I need new clothes. They may be like, yo, support that. And I love how we broke down the monetization too. People tend to not even think about donations.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think that gets talked about enough. Some people just want to support you. Like, shout out to the people who have been giving us super chat. Like, they just want to support us. So. Right? And if you create something that allows that, right? Just like a tier of like, hey, do $4 here, $2 here, or $5.99 a month or whatever. You'd be very surprised. Your little, as you would like to say, your little 2-3 listeners may be at least one of those actually like a paying customer, a true supporter that down the line that adds up, that does pay for your hosting fees.
100%. Yeah, and you just never know how, what we would consider or call the power of one person listening, sharing, and that person, just that network starting to lock into what you're sharing, you just never know where things can go. But I think starting with that expectation of, hey, this makes sense. I want to go in this direction. I want to add value to my audience. I want to be strategic about how I can build my business and really, take it from there. That's a great way to start. I want to jump into something that we actually heard in the room yesterday when they gave the criteria for podcasters connecting with networks, and they kind of gave a list of questions.
Yeah.
One of the things that they talked about was when networks are looking for creators to partner with, they want to see how open they are to creator feedback or editorial feedback, which I thought was pretty interesting, right? Because from one standpoint, a creator is really wearing that hat or that title because they like to create. They want to have freedom. But then when you start jumping into some of these networks, and a lot of us might have ambitions, like, oh, I want to get on a network, I want to get a network. Well, there is, I don't want to say a cost, but maybe a compromise that comes to joining the next big thing for your show, which is you're now going to have to take on feedback from other people, what they call editorial feedback. So give me your thoughts on that, man. Is it too expensive when you're considering, shoot, I now have to listen to what the editorial or the producers are telling me to do, and I have to embed that into the show? Or maybe it is worth the opportunity for just some people who are maybe a little bit further along in their journey and they're now thinking about what's the next step. I think Jonathan covered a phenomenal part for the beginning. Let's talk a little bit more for people who are in the middle or even deeper into their journey.
I think it depends on where you are in your journey, but it depends on what you need. So joining a network isn't necessarily, okay, I join here and everything's taken care of. They take care of everything. I'm going to be in the charts. I'm going to be doing all these things. That's not necessarily the truth. You still got to come up with the content. Some networks, you still have to put up a lot of stuff. You have to buy some of your own equipment. You got studio time, all that. You have to come into the network understanding what do you have to offer. What is this all come with? Be very clear with maybe your intentions. Be very clear with what their intentions are. Right? And if they do give you feedback, right, how much are you going to take out of that? That won't ruin your creative vibe and your ownership of your own IP.
Yeah.
Right? And that's very important. And the people that I know that are in networks don't necessarily have to really deal with messing with their own episodes or anything, but they may have to add something. They may have to add a certain kind of segment that they normally wouldn't, a certain ad that they normally wouldn't, right? But some of the benefits of being on a network is the monetization side, the ad side of things. You don't necessarily have to worry about it. They go find the ads for you. You get a certain revenue share from it. It's all good. They get a percentage. You get a percentage. Everybody's happy, right? Sometimes from a production standpoint, right? They'll pay for new equipment. They'll pay for the studio that you're recording in. They'll do that. Or it may be a network that is just starting and is more of a collective, right?
Yeah.
So where it's like, all right, you have podcasts, you have podcasts, you have podcasts. Let's all come together and we can help each other promote each other's stuff. So on Tuesdays, you say all our podcasts. When I post, I'll say all our podcasts.
That's
and
good.
We're going to do that. A podcast network doesn't always have to be so complex. It can literally be as simple as that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I took away from the call or the conversation yesterday when I realized that it was really just a matter of a numbers game. Yeah. At some point, a lot of the folks in there are thinking about it of, well, let me get as many, I don't want to say as many shows as possible, but I might have a network of, say, 10, 15, 20 shows, because when we're talking monetization, I don't have to just worry about my show alone. I can go to an advertising company or other brands and say, hey, my network has a total downloads of 100,000 downloads. So you by yourself may not be able to get 100,000 downloads, but the collective network can. And so you're able to expose other smaller creators, mid-sized creators, large creators, leverage large-sized creators, right? That I thought was, that's the business of podcasting. It's not just about what your show can do, but what can the collective do together to be able to get those opportunities and expose and bring awareness for the whole. I see a question here. I want to bring that up and ask you. It says, what are the overhead cost associated with a podcast?
It depends on where you're going with it. So meaning you have your hosting. Some hosting platforms are actually free, right?
Nice.
Some have a cost. We used Buzzsprout coming in, right? And that was about like, I'll say $24.99. Don't quote me on it. It probably went up because everything goes up. We're in inflation, right? But anything from probably like $4.99 to probably $30 from a hosting standpoint, right? Then let's say that you get a website for your podcast, right? We use Podpage. Podpage takes about, I think, like $12.99 a month or something like that,
Nice.
and it automatically curates your podcast. So anytime it populates, like you publish an episode, it automatically creates a page for it. What's wrong, Rabbit?
Big time.
Huh? Oh, hey!
Man, what a blessing this guy is. Not only did he drop
Shout out
some gems,
Lloyd. Hey, Lloyd.
he also dropped money.
Yeah. Shout out to Jonathan Lloyd. I was talking about you. Your people at this story, or what, I forgot what it's called, the little streaming joint. They're over there. I was like, the only reason I know of that is because of Lloyd. So shout out to Lloyd.
Oh, that's funny.
So the hosting situation, if you're getting your audio edited, right, that's a cost, right? It could go anything from you go to Fiverr or you find somebody, a new freelancer. That cost could vary. You got, if you have a video side of it, video editor, right? Some people get whole podcast producers, right? To be able to produce their show, and that's a cost. So it just depends on where you are with your podcast. We took on a lot of the costs ourselves. Shout out to me because I could edit stuff. Shout out to Eddie who does our audio, right? But then as we grew, then we worried about timestamps. We worried about transcriptions. We worried about thumbnails. Costs continue to go up as you grow, but from a bare minimum status, beginning, you got hosting, right? And you got to figure out whether it's time or money, how to at least edit that audio.
Let's get another air horn here for this super chat.
Listen, we appreciate you. We appreciate this day 2. Mr. Camera Junkie, I see you in the building. You know what I mean? My bad.
Yeah, no, that's major. We appreciate the love, man. This has been a blast. I mean, just being out here, I've been talking about this, like the opportunity to get out and network and see a different side of conferences. It's super cool. It's a conference that already comes with the community. So if you're thinking about what should I do, where should I be, you definitely want to be here next year. But more importantly, just remember the wonderful community at Ecamm. I mean, you see the chat, you see the moderators, you see just the wonderful people tapped in. They're more than just a software, and I love what someone commented yesterday. They said, I came for the software, but I stayed for the community.
Yeah, community is fire.
Yeah, and if you are a new creator, someone who's on the fence or interested in jumping into podcasting, for sure, do it. But also do it using Ecamm. Just because of the resources that are made available to you, you won't feel alone during that journey. And I can just tell you from experience that when you're on a journey and you feel like you're doing it by yourself, it's a lot easier to quit because there's no one holding you accountable. You have no one to show up for. You're just like, oh, well, I might as well just stop doing it. But when you have a lot of people saying, hey, what was your episode about this week? Or what's your next episode about? Or, hey, can I be on your show? You want to be on my show? And you start to ideate, similar to just what you saw happen here, it gives you a little bit of momentum, and you do it until enough discipline and consistency kicks in that you're like, okay, I guess I'm going to keep rocking here.
Yep.
So definitely, man, just want to not breeze over that and take a minute from the conversation for a moment and say, take advantage of Ecamm, take advantage of the community that's available to you to really make it and go to the next level.
I'm trying to look at this schedule, right? Mind you, let me go over some of these topics that these people are going over, right? So it's about, let me see, hold up. I'm trying to get the 11:30 ones. Here we go. So finding success on YouTube. Doc, we going to that one? Finding success on YouTube. That's at 11:30. Conversation with YouTube and the Roast Podcast Network, right? They got, let's see, creating engaging social clips to grow your audience. Fascinating updates from Fawkes Tax something. Let's change the game, right? What else they got over here? Let's see. Meet the new wave of Latinx podcast creators. Hold on.
Hey.
What?
Yeah, let's talk about that too.
Sure. Why are we creating multi-format content? How I earned $60K in sponsorship revenue, landed my first pre-launch sponsor.
Wow.
Above your hosting stats, 5 additional sources to help you understand your audience, how to double our incomes with podcast producer mastermind. I'm going to that one. I'm going to that one. But there's so much here that, like, podcasting is not just grabbing the mic and talking. It's a whole business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a whole place that brings community in. It's so much, and just going through the topics is like, I thought I knew something.
Right.
You know what I mean? I thought I knew something. So, but from you, who was out of the content world,
Totally.
right? And now being here and understanding how much it could be a business, what is your thoughts from a business side of podcasting?
Yeah. I think it's, as we always say, exposure is a great way of learning more about what something really is instead of what you thought it was. And that's been my experience. I think for me, I really was turned off, in all transparency, I was really turned off by what content appeared to be over the last 2 years.
Wait, break that down.
With the rise of TikTok, and nothing against the platform, but just the way creators were starting to put out content, I was like, man, it's all about what you have. There's no substance to what you say. And I was like, I'm a little concerned about being a part of that because I don't want to necessarily push that message forward. But as I took a step back and I'm now being exposed to different parts of the industry, I'm realizing that not all content is you being on TikTok doing dances. And nothing against people who are doing dances. I actually find some of them incredibly entertaining. That there are other waves that you can be a part of or create. Quite honestly, you can create your own wave and get going and be involved. Because if you thought that this concept of content, branding, just digital media in general was only a cloud hovering over because of COVID, and I probably was one of those people, I'm telling you that I was wrong, and you probably are wrong too. You might just want to be like, all right, let me get out of that COVID mindset. This is not just something that we're doing temporarily because people are stuck at home. No, this is the wave of the future and the right now. And now that I'm looking at it through that lens, of course I see how it makes sense business-wise, and I think I always say business is like a scoreboard for me, right? It's not all about the money, but it's nice to have a record of how well you're doing utilizing the numbers. But now I'm seeing that there are other opportunities, and you can be involved in something that is both impactful and profitable if you just play the game. You just got to get in. So that for me is definitely bringing some fresh perspective around content, media, audio, the whole digital age in general. Digital age, I sound like a nomad. I sound like I'm from the 1800s. Like, man, that's how my mind has been, y'all. You got to forgive me.
This has been such an amazing experience to see Moose get aha moments, right? He's taking notes. It's so great to see. I don't think y'all really understand my enjoyment of this. It's so great to see. So, okay. So, let's have a personal conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So what would be some changes, if any, right, based off some of the stuff that we do with Nicky and Moose?
Oh, I'm reading Doc's comment. I'm like, wait, how did Doc comment that? He's right here. But I guess he's on the stream commenting. Your comment, bro. I love it. Man.
I didn't clown. Okay, no. Okay, can we have a quick side note? Real quick side note. So, and then I'm going to get back to it.
Yeah.
The question on my live yesterday, and for those people who know these people, please comment, right? It's like, if you could have a dinner, right? If you could have a dinner with, or lunch or whatever, with Kanye, Drake, or Jay-Z, who would you pick? Right, who would you pick?
Yeah, probably Jay too.
Okay, I said Drake.
Ooh.
I said Drake.
Drake.
No, he didn't know that. I said, so I said,
I want to hear this in my face.
all right. So I said Drake because Drake's moves, business moves, doesn't get spoken about publicly enough.
Yeah.
Right? And so we seeing a little bit more of Jay-Z. That's more something that I could look up. I could probably do some research, maybe ask him in depth about. But with Drake, I would like to really know, yo, I seen the house.
Right.
I seen the plane.
Come on.
Okay? I seen the vacations. I seen the partnerships. Like, talk to me about what's happening behind the scenes of how you are making so much money besides music, because we clearly see what Jay-Z is doing with Rock Nation, with some of the things that he does from a community standpoint, with the Nets, with all these things. You don't hear that much from Drake. I'd rather have that conversation with him.
Okay.
I would get a more in-depth conversation with Jay-Z, but I would find out, okay, what is the blueprint for Drake? And then
Jay-Z did the blueprint twice.
Right.
The actual album.
I see what you did there.
Okay,
I
just
see what
saying.
you did there. But go ahead.
No, the only reason, there's two reasons why I said Sean. Same name, spelled exactly correctly, not seen. So we're brethren in that
Okay.
sense. His longevity comes from an era where it was way harder to do what he did.
Yes.
The other thing, and this is so cheating maybe, he gonna bring Bay with him.
Maybe. Hold on. That is not guaranteed. That's not guaranteed.
I was wishful thinking.
That's that. You see, you can't put that in there and then it makes it look.
No, but honestly, it was because of the longevity. He came through at a time where it was way harder to do it. But I did appreciate your answer about Ob's moves because it's not as out there. So you will probably learn a lot of things that aren't technically on the surface. Another thing that, to me, that Sean did very amazingly was
I'm mad you calling this man
compared-
Sean.
we're the same name,
Governor.
so I'm
I'm
gonna
mad
use
you
it.
calling this man his name
Hey,
Sean.
hey, Sean Corey Carter. I won't tell you what my middle name is, but anyway, for the era, he did it quietly and low key in the sense that he wasn't out there acting a fool.
Right.
A lot of the cats of that era, added the fool part to it, which doesn't.
It's marketing.
Yeah, it's marketing. It's 100% marketing. We know that because you know his genius. You've seen his genius operate. And part of me is like, I wish he never did the crazy part because it does make some people take away from his genius and not respect his genius. And no, the man's a legit genius. You know what I'm saying? He is absolutely a genius. So I'm with you on the fact that I wouldn't do Yeezy because you never know what he's gonna say. He might be on today, off today. But I do believe just from the longevity of Jay-Z that I could understand what it was like to do it in the depth. But I do appreciate what you said about how, Drake will teach us stuff that we're never going to see.
Yeah, it's a good point. No, you're right. I mean, I think what Drake has done so well is also that he has really stayed dedicated to music. He's doing other things, but the main thing that you're going to see him marketing or being a part of publicly is music. He's not done with that. Clearly, he's still involved in the music business or the industry, and so he is locked in and taking full advantage of that. And I always appreciate the dedication and the discipline that comes with someone. And it's not like the man doesn't have options. It's one thing when you're short of options and you're like, oh, shit, well, I just gotta focus on music. I have nothing else. I mean, obviously probably the top rapper in the entire world right now, and still, right, moving very strategically and saying, nope, I'm going to stay dedicated to this. I'll do other things, but you won't know about it publicly until at least I'm done with the music part.
Big facts. Big
You-
facts.
you know
Shout out
what
to
everybody
France, by the
forgets
way.
about?
Hold on. Shout out to France. We global people. The stream's global. Anyway.
I like that. One of the things that people forget about, and I guess it also proves that he's done such a good job, people forget about he came from TV. Not the other way
Right.
around. Most people go opposite. He actually came from TV to do this. And it's super funny. One of the guys that comes to my stream all the time, Michael Kinney was a substitute teacher on the show.
Oh,
and
shoot.
then he just pops up on my streams and says hi and talks to me and Keely and everybody. And I totally was like, wait, I know this guy's face, and I couldn't picture it. I looked it up, and then, yeah, he was the substitute teacher on Degrassi or whatever. So it is interesting, and yes, Drake's dedication to the music is absolutely amazing. He's helping other people out. And even though people kept trying to give him drama, he kind of stays out of it.
Yes.
He has to run away from a lot. People love to start some, but he does a good job of kiboshing it and moving on instead of like letting it blow out of proportion. And people legit be trying to take him down. And so you got to give him credit. And for a long time, hip hop wouldn't give him credit. Now, one more piece of credit he deserves, he did it from Canada. It's easy, not easy, that's a bad statement. It's more likely to become a dope hip hop person from New York.
Yes.
It's a little bit harder from the South and from LA, but it has been done.
Yes.
But he brought it from Canada.
Yep.
There wasn't a lot. There wasn't the block. There wasn't selling tapes at the bodega. There wasn't like, showing up to these dope street parties, having one of your homies that's like dropping mixtapes everywhere like Ty Boogie and some of these other cats who out here having mixtapes. So he did it from a very different scope, which makes the feat a little bit more incredible.
There you go, people.
Gotta love it.
Thank you, Dad.
Gotta love it.
I just had to say it because I want you to be mad at me. I'm scared of you.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Anyway, back to the convo real quick, fast, in a hurry. We got a few more minutes. What would you change?
I think I would go back. Are you saying change now or change back then?
Change now.
Oh, I definitely want us to continue to do a better job of learning about our audience and targeting those who we want to serve.
Okay.
I think that's definitely something that we can benefit from because it will our next move will make more sense when we know who we're serving, right? Right now, when you're, and I still think for the most part we are speaking to creative entrepreneurs, but just getting even a little bit more specific as to who they are, what are they interested in, what do they like, what do they struggle with, all of those things to really bring it full circle for us. I always think that's an opportunity for us to be more targeted with the content and the spin we put on it. At the end of the day, there's a lot of content and as creators, I'm sure you all know, you can take content any which way you want. Yeah. But the one that will make the most sense is it just varies based on, well, who are you serving or what's the end goal? What are you really trying to accomplish? So I think the more that you are in tune with your audience and you're aware of their challenges, their goals, all of these different things, those criterias, you become a better content creator. You really do, because you're serving your audience at the highest level. So for sure, I think that's one adjustment that we can make to get better. And then of course, I think that we can extend the runway of the podcast by having other channels or other things that people can be a part of. Shoot, maybe a second show with other creators, right? Giving opportunity to other creators. I'm always a fan of that. I always say my purpose is to unite people of diverse backgrounds. And as cliche and esoteric as it sounds, that's what I'm passionate about. That's what I love. I love being able to bring people in the room and have them forget about all the things that would typically divide them in any other room, but they just no longer exist in this in this platform. So I think thinking about those things and having the vision of, hey, it's a numbers game, and however you get to that 20,000 mark, that 100,000 mark, whatever mark it is that you're after, you can do it and you don't have to carry the load all by yourself. So it is working both harder and smarter, but strategically to make some things happen where we extend the lifeline of the brand, we extend the runway of the podcast by introducing some new elements that I think can really make it pop.
I like that.
What about you? What are you kind of walking away with from this experience, and at least so far, and saying, you know what, I think we can do this differently or better?
I want to create a different audio experience. I want to take that idea where it said, like, there's a beat, we build up a story, we give like a shorter version, and something that could create visuals, like showing the person in their element while telling a story. I think that'd be really dope.
That would be really cool.
Yeah,
that would
yeah,
be
I
really
think
cool.
that'd be really
I don't
dope.
know too many people who are actually doing it, so it would be pretty awesome.
I think that'd be really dope. I'm gonna tap in and see how I can have some ideas. It literally could be 3 minutes. You
Right.
know, it doesn't have to be anything long. So I'm not trying to have a 20-minute joint about that, right? However long the beat is, I'm gonna create a little story towards it. See how it is. Mook, I'm coming to you.
Hey.
And we keep it that way. So, I said thank you. I said you're welcome, right? But we are out, people. Look, we are gonna go to more sessions, right? This podcast movement from Dallas, all right? If you are not part of the Ecamm Live family, right, join the family. Not only is this the #1 all-in-one live streaming platform, the best thing you could do for your pre-recorded videos as well, but also from the podcasting world, it is everything that you need as far as audio isolation, as far as giving you your video podcast, right? As far as making it, you don't have to pretty much edit your stuff if you didn't want to. Everything that you could do, you could live edit literally right in there. Let me add my lower thirds. Let me add my transitions. Let me add sound effects all through Ecamm Live. You could go do that, and they give you a 14-day trial period to see if you like it, see if you don't. You know what I mean? They have multicasting right now. It's a whole vibe. So get Ecamm Live. Plus, our community is doper than anybody else's. Period. All right? But we out. We love you guys. You already know what we're going to say.
Peace, y'all.